All right, so right now I'm looking at question 5. This is on homework 5A. So we're looking for the real and complex solutions to the following polynomial equation. And so this is a higher order polynomial. We have x to the fourth as our leading coefficient here. And so we need to figure out how we can go about solving this since it's not like a normal quadratic equation that we're used to. So I'm going to show you though how we can actually factor this one because if you notice a pattern that I have x to the fourth, x squared, and then I just have a constant term here, that is following a pattern that I can actually put in a kind of quadratic-like form, which I'm going to show you in a moment that I can actually factor. So step 1 is going to be to get all the terms on one side and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to be moving the 12x squared and the 16 to the other side. So I'm going to have 4x to the fourth, and I'm going to subtract the 12x over, so I'll have 12x squared, and then minus 16 equals 0. So the first thing I want to do is see if I have a greatest common factor, which I do. I can take out a 4, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm left with x to the fourth minus 3x squared minus 4 equals 0. So now I'm going to show you how we can kind of view this as a quadratic of sorts. So if I carry this down, if we look here, we kind of have like an x squared and a 3x squared. This is like to the first, and then this negative 4 is just a constant term. But if you look at it this way, if you just imagine that this is like a variable in and of itself in the parentheses, you can see how this kind of follows the form or flow of a quadratic where we have a squared term, just a variable raised to the first, and then a constant term. And so this actually can be factored. So I have a leading coefficient of 1, so I'm looking for factors of negative 4 that add to negative 3. So those factors are going to be negative 4 and 1. But instead of doing x minus 4, x plus 1, I'm actually going to do x squared because that is kind of my variable right now. So I have x squared minus 4 and then x squared plus 1 equal to 0. And this x squared minus 4 can actually be factored one step further because it is a difference of squares. So I have x plus 2, x minus 2. X squared plus 1 is a sum of squares, so it cannot be factored anymore. That's its most factored form. So now I just set these equal to 0 and solve. So I get x equals negative 2, x equals positive 2. And then when I solve over here, I subtract 1, I get x squared equals negative 1, and I take the square root of both sides, and I'm left with x equals plus or minus positive or negative. The square root of negative 1 is I, so plus or minus I is what I get. And so if I look up here, it's asking for the real and the imaginary zeros. So these over here are my real zeros, so I plugged those in, negative 2 and 2. And then my imaginary zeros are over here because I is an imaginary number. So I have negative I, and that's it.